In
Seven, 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 one star. We're going to pick up on Mardiga presents.
the Carpenter's Son Who Changed Everything. From the most modest of means in a volatile part of the world, the people of varying faith, including the three great monotheism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, would came to call the Holy Land. A young man emerged whose radical, inspiring philosophy seemed not only a challenge to religious orthodoxy and political authority, but perhaps a course forward through life, which was so often a vale of tears. He developed a following, and after his martyrdom, when he was barely 30 years of age, a cult, what would become
The world's
largest religion, grew in the shadow of clandestine churches of the pagan Roman Empire, until finally the empire, not the dissident who regularly sacrificed life and liberty for their belief, yelled, "Who was the man?" For many, he was an answer to what had been prophesied by the sages, the fulfillment of a promise made. He was, for others, a different kind of answer. The alternative was despair. For still other, his words seemed to present the answer to life's very biggest question. He seemed to them the way. In this life book, in words and pictures, is the story of Jesus of Nazareth, presented with historical context that came before. What Jesus means in his time, what he means in our today. It's a story that has been related a million times and many more than that. Sometimes with bias. The gospel writer certainly had a bias, a reason for writing as persuasively as they did. It has been called famously the greatest story ever told. The story is a response to a challenge posed by Jesus himself. But who do you say that I am? Later speaking his own mission, but clearly divinity as well. Paul attended an answer. All things to all men. He was right at the time. He is right today. To some, Jesus is the Son of God, the Anointed, the Christ. born to virgin just more than 2,000 years ago. Perhaps, say, a consensus of historians around 4 BC. To others, Jesus just a man, albeit a man who showed through his teaching and exemplary life. Several faiths now incorporated into Christianity, and to still others, he is little more than a mate. Maybe he lived, they say, but his stature is a great and transcendent human being, is a novelist invasion of Paul, and then the gospel writer who required the charismatic anchor for their nascent churches. He say, dismay sayers, an idea, but whether idea or a man, Jesus, in whose name surely wars have been fought, and awful deeds done, is a model that day to day encourages much good, a mirror that reflects for many of us our hopes. We see Jesus as many different people: dutiful son, ascetic, revolutionary, sage, martyr, depending our personal belief and indeed our personal needs. A great many of us Christian and not what Jesus on our team. He want to be his teammate. We want to be like him. We want him to be like us. Consider, however, if Jesus existed, and although some see him principally as a Poland invasion, Jesus all but certainly did exist. He must have looked Semitic, but the masterpiece of European religion's art did not portray him that way. As you already know, and I will not note again when looking at these pages, the Africans knows a dark-skinned Jesus, the Swedish a blonde one, the Chinese an Asiatic Jesus, American picture the bearded Jesus of a million prayer book covers. We see Jesus in our own image. It helps us to know him better, to understand him. It helps us to hear him speak. When we read his sayings rendered in the poetic, it archived word of the King James Version of the Bible. Poetic words that familiarly from childhood, but that have matured. Profound, undeniable power. Contemplating all this, our Jesus among many Jesuses may help us come to understand him better. It may help us too to know what others think that him not only hysterical figure of certain importance, famous philosopher, the gospel scribes, a long gun, poets, and balladeers, our country founding fathers, but also contemporary figures of scholarship or renowned life eminent thinkers, including historian, theologians, and clergy. We have talked as well as prominent public personalities who have had some good cause to contemplate Jesus. His life, his deeds, what he stands for, what he means to them, and what he means, perhaps, to us all. Various insights and impressions are reflected in the testimony of these diverse witnesses. Make one point clear: whether Jesus was sent from heaven or not, whether he died on the cross or not, and ascended or did not, Jesus is alive into our time. To believers and non-believers alike, Jesus matters. Still matters. He long his, he always will. Your servant, Melchor Velasco.
DJ Bob.